Hello everyone, welcome to C Academy YouTube channel. My name is Veleleni Nkosi. In today's lesson we discuss menstrual cycle. A menstrual cycle is the monthly series of changes the female body goes through to prepare for a pregnancy. In this video I will show you all the changes that are taking place during the menstrual cycle. Without wasting more time, let's get to it. So like always in our video, we start with examination guideline. So this document is an examination guideline. It's for menstrual cycle. So in menstrual cycle, the things that the examiner wants us to know, you must know the menstrual cycle includes the uterine and the ovarian cycle. Menstrual cycle is divided into two cycles. We have uterine cycle and then ovarian cycle, which are taking place at the same time. So menstrual cycle is divided into four phases. So the phases are a menstruation phase, which is from day 1 to day 5. And then here is the menstruation phase. It's the bleeding phase. And then we have follicular phase, which is from day 6 to day 13. So this is the follicular phase, which is the follicular formation or formation of a Graafian follicle. And then we have ovulation phase. The ovulation phase take place in the 14th day. So this is the ovulation phase. During the ovulation, the follicle ruptured, so to release an egg or matured egg. And then we have luteal phase. Luteal phase is from the 15th day to 28th day. So this is the last phase of the menstrual cycle. So this is the luteal formation or the formation of corpus luteum. And then I will show you all these processes on the cycle. I will do some animation where you can see how the changes is taking place. So first of all, let me start by showing you this is the primary follicle. At the start of the cycle, we have primary follicles, and then we have endometrium, which is on the thickest, which means it's on the highest. And then this is the ovary. So here I've drawn the ovaries so that I want you to see the process taking place at the same time. So remember, the ovarian cycle, it takes place inside this ovary. So then I've drawn this ovary here. So let's start. We have ovarian cycle in this on our left hand side, and then uterus cycle on your right hand side. So let's start with a menstruation phase. So during the menstruation phase, this is the menstruation phase, day 1 to day 5. The endometrium lining shed. So and then bleeding occur. So from day 1 to day 5, this endometrium lining, this lining here, the red part, it start to shed. It will release some blood. So I would like us to focus here on this lining here. Please focus here. So yeah, here where you see this flicking. So if you see the lining, it's going down, and then there is a drop of blood which are moving out of the body through the vulva or the vaginal opening. So if you see, and then the thickness now start to decrease. The thickness is going down. This process takes about 3 to 5 days. So it depends with individuals. And then so you see now the thickness, it's almost not there. So the thickness has changed like in a big time. So during the menstruation phase, the endometrium lining shed, and then the bleeding occur. So this is from day 1 to day 5, between day 1 and day 5. So this is the bleeding menstruation phase. So our next phase is a follicular phase. So follicular phase is from day 6 to day 13. So let me explain what happens during the follicular phase. In the ovarian cycle, during the follicular phase, the pituitary gland releases FSH. So we know pituitary gland is in the brain, releases FSH. The FSH is the follicular stimulating hormone, and then the FSH start to stimulate follicles. So so here we have primary follicles, and then when the FSH is released into the blood, so this follicle start to grow. Not only one, but many follicles, around 20 or 15. So they start to grow, but one follicle become dominant. So as the follicles start to grow, only one will become dominant. So one will survive, the other ones, they will degenerate or they will die. And then follicles releases estrogen. So as the follicles are developing, are growing, they will release an hormones that we call it estrogen. So this estrogen is released in the ovary. So it's not from the brain. This one is released in the ovary. And then during the follicular phase, from day 6 to day 18 in the uterus cycle, endometrium lining start to thicken, influenced by estrogen. So this estrogen that is released in the ovary influence the endometrium to start thickening. So because this endometrium now, it was very thin, so the estrogen will influence it to grow. So let me do some animation. So now we will look at the here in the ovary, and then we will focus again here on the uterus. So here, as we can see, one follicle, it has grown, and then the thickness now is start to grow again. So this taken place during the follicular phase. The thickness is growing, and then one follicle is also growing. As it grows, it releases estrogen, and the estrogen stimulate this thickness of the endometrium. And then you can see now again the thickness is growing, and then now we have a tertiary follicle. So this is primary follicle, this is secondary follicle. Now we have tertiary follicle, and the thickness is also growing during follicular phase, day 6 to day 18. This process takes place from day 6 to day 18 of our cycle. And then going further, the thickness is still growing because estrogen is released as the follicles are developing or are growing. And then now we have a Graafian follicle. So this, we call it a Graafian follicle. From primary follicle to Graafian follicle is stimulated by FSH, which is follicle stimulated hormone. And then this follicle, as they grow, they release a hormone that we call estrogen. And then the estrogen goes to the uterus to to grow the endometrium lining. So this is how they connect. One releases, and then one is growing. So now we go to the next phase. So the next phase, it's an ovulation. So during the ovulation, the pituitary gland releases LH. So the LH is a luteinizing hormone. So the luteinizing hormone causes ovulation. So ovulation is when this Graafian follicle releases this dot that you see inside. This dot is an matured egg. So this egg is also going through a process of meiosis. So it's an matured egg. So this LH causes ovulation, and then the follicle releases the egg to fallopian tube. So during ovulation, this Graafian follicle will release this egg. Look here. So now this Graafian follicle is this one. It releases this egg, and then if you can see here, this egg now has leave the ovary, now move to the fallopian tube. So this taking place during the ovulation. So ovulation, you must know what happened. Pituitary gland releases a luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone causes ovulation. So, and then the follicle will release egg to fallopian tube. So the follicle will rupture and then releases this egg, and then the egg will leave the ovary, and then move to the fallopian tube. Then now we go to the next phase. So the next phase, which is the lutein phase and the last phase of the cycle. During the last phase of the cycle, the follicles become corpus luteum, and the corpus luteum secrete progesterone, and then the progesterone suppress FSH released by the pituitary gland. So this is important. You must know that the progesterone, as it releases by the corpus luteum, it prevents the pituitary gland from releasing FSH. So we won't have FSH, because if the pituitary gland releases FSH, another follicle will start to be developing. So we have to prevent this development. So this development is prevented by the progesterone, which is released by the corpus luteum. So here we have Graafian follicle, and then after this ovulation, this Graafian follicle has changed to become corpus luteum. So now we have corpus luteum. We are no longer calling it Graafian follicle. Now it's a corpus luteum. So this corpus luteum will secrete progesterone, which is another hormone that is released inside the ovary, and then the progesterone will prevent FSH from released by pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland won't release FSH, so there won't be any development of a follicle or of an egg before the cycle is completed. And then inside the uterus cycle, during the luteal phase, the progesterone stimulates the endometrium to become more thick, and then to become more glandular and more vascular. So what the progesterone will do, will make this thing more thick and then more glandular. So focus here, look at here what happened here. You see, now this is become more thick, more glandular, and now it's ready for an egg. If it happened, it's ready for an egg to be implanted here. And then this is during the luteal phase, from 15 to 28 days. Is the function of this progesterone is to make this more glandular, more thick, and more vascular. And then again, progesterone prevent pituitary gland from releasing FSH. So I hope you understand. Another thing that is important, and now we have two situations here. Let's say the situation if fertilization occurs. Let's say the fertilization occurs. So if fertilization occurs, the corpus luteum remains active. If you see here, the corpus luteum now is more active, like you can see it's more active, and then it continues secreting progesterone. So FSH will not be secreted, and then no new follicle is stimulated. So inside the ovarian cycle, this will become more active now, and then it keep on releasing the hormone progesterone. The progesterone will prevent a pituitary gland from secreting FSH, so there won't be any new follicles that will grow. And then in the uterus cycle, this progesterone continue nourishing endometrium, so this will not shed, so this lining will remain intact like this one. And then this egg will come as it fertilized, and then will implant itself here. So we will make a video of what happened with fertilization and the implantation, which happened, I think it's going to be our next video. I will teach you about fertilization and then implantation. So now the progesterone continues nourishing endometrium, so this endometrium will stay intact if fertilization occurs. So please, I hope you take some notes so that you will read. And then if now we have another condition, let's say the fertilization does not occur. So if the fertilization does not occur in the ovarian cycle, the corpus luteum start to shrink. So you see here the corpus luteum is shrink and stop secreting progesterone. So we will not going to have a progesterone. Then pituitary gland stand a chance to release FSH. So now pituitary gland will release FSH so that the cycle can start again. And then in the uterus, if fertilization not occurs, so there is no progesterone, the endometrium lining will shed. So now, because there is no progesterone that is nourishing the endometrium, so the blood will start again, and the egg will also, because it's unfertilized, it will move out of the body with the blood. So this is the condition that taken place if fertilization is not occurs. So these are the processes of menstrual cycles. So now we go to, this is our examination guideline. Now we go to hormonal control of the menstrual cycle. So with reference to the FSH, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. So you will encounter this drawing here during examination. So here we have follicles that are developing. Here we have hormones. So these hormones, these ones are released in the brain, and then these two are released in the ovaries. So what happened here is that from day 1 to day 5, that is the menstruation phase. So the hormones are very low, even FSH is very low. But after day 5, the pituitary gland start to release FSH. So if you see here, the FSH is starting to grow. As it grows, the follicles are also growing. So here the follicles are growing, and then because with the result of the FSH, and then as the follicles are growing inside the ovary, now we have estrogen. So the estrogen is also growing. If you see here, it has a jump a little bit here because these follicles are growing. So as they grow, here we have a Graafian follicle, and then the estrogen doing what is also growing. So as we approach it, day number 14, the luteinizing hormone, which is responsible for ovulation, is also going up here. So this is the hormone that is responsible for the ovulation. Here is up, and then the egg now it's releasing. This follicle is ruptured to release the egg to the fallopian tube. So because of the luteinizing hormone, here is growing very high, because estrogen, it was also growing. And then as we approach number 14, the luteinizing hormone is growing then to release the egg during day number 14. And then as the egg is released, now we are no longer talking about a Graafian follicle, we talk about corpus luteum. So now we are on the corpus luteum because it's after ovulation. So this corpus luteum will start to secrete progesterone. So if you see, progesterone start to release after day number 14. So this progesterone is released by the corpus luteum. So the corpus luteum will release this progesterone. This progesterone is also making the endometrium more glandular and more vascular. If you see here, it's still growing as the progesterone is growing, and then this progesterone is released by corpus luteum. But if fertilization does not take place, this corpus luteum start to shrink. As it shrink, it is stop releasing progesterone. So the level of progesterone is going down. So as the level of progesterone is going down, this endometrium is also no longer being nourished, and then it's also going down. So but if the fertilization maybe has taken place, the level of progesterone we were not going to go down, it were going to be like going straight like this, and then also this glandula will remain, endometrium will remain straight like this one. If fertilization has taken place and the corpus luteum were not going to shrink, it will remain like this one until there is an implementation of the zygote. So this how the hormones are working during the menstrual cycle. So another thing that we must know that the negative feedback mechanism involving FSH and the progesterone in controlling production of ova. So here we are talking about progesterone and the FSH. So we know that FSH grows the follicles, the follicles, and then progesterone prevent pituitary gland from releasing the FSH. So this is the negative feedback mechanism. As the progesterone is increasing in the blood, the pituitary gland is decreasing the level of FSH, so that we won't have more follicles to be growth or to be stimulated. So this is the negative feedback. If progesterone is increasing and then the level of FSH is decreasing. So this is how the negative feedback works. One is increasing, one is decreasing. So thank you very much for watching this video to this far. I hope you understood the menstrual cycle. And if you are studying, I say good luck with your studies. Thank you very much.